Steve Cambridge.
Thank you.
That's my brother. That's my brother, Steve Cambridge.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Contest Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and guests. A few years ago, I went back to my hometown of Frankfort, Indiana, to attend one of my high school class reunions. While I was there, one of my classmates came up to me, and he said, "Hey, do you remember at our last reunion, I asked you which person had the biggest influence on your life? And you said, your brother." I said, "My brother?" He said, "Yeah, you said your brother, because you said you could learn as much from a bad example as you could a good example on how to live your life." Well, hey, to be fair to my older brother, he wasn't always a bad example. In fact, I can remember when I was in the 4th grade, I was pretty sure he saved my life. This is what happened. I was pedaling my bike down the sidewalk. On the left-hand side was a campus castle hangout for the junior high kids. On the right-hand side, all their bicycles. As I pedaled by, I accidentally bumped one of those bicycles. And in a New York second, a chain reaction took place and a dozen bicycles were on top of one another. Now, I was only 9, but I had to make the biggest decision of my 9-year-old life. Do I stop, do the right thing, and pick up all those bicycles? Or do I continue to pedal on? You're right. I pedaled like crazy. Unfortunately, it wasn't fast enough, because all of a sudden, I hear screaming and yelling and shouting, and I look back. There is a mob of junior high kids hot on my tail. They caught me. They pulled me off my bicycle. They put me in a circle. They started pushing and shoving me, calling me names, doing everything they could to scare me. And it was working. All of a sudden, I heard a familiar voice say, "Hey, what's going on?" It was a miracle. It was my older brother. He was an 8th grader. He had been in the campus castle. The mob leader said, "This little punk knocked our bikes over." And my brother said, "Well, what are you going to do about it? What are you going to do with him?" And I'm thinking, what are they going to do with me? They're going to kill me. That's what they're going to do with me. And the mob leader says, "We're just going to teach him a lesson." And my brother said, "No, you're not." And the kid said, "Why not?" And my brother said, "Because that little punk, he's my brother. That's why not." The kid got on his bicycle, and the mob went home. And my brother looked at me, and he said, "You've got to be more careful. I'm not going to fight your battles all your life." I got back on my bicycle, and as I pedaled away, I looked back at him, and with so much pride, I said, "That's my brother." And I would say those words with that kind of pride over the next several years, as my brother not only went on to be a star athlete, he went on to become one of the most popular kids in the entire high school. In fact, it was because of his athletic example that I learned what it took to be a competitor. But I'll never forget the day that I stopped saying those words with the same kind of pride. It started out like any typical Saturday morning. I woke up to the smell of frying pancakes and bacon. And I walked into the kitchen. I said, "Hey, Mom, how's it going?" What's wrong, Mom? Hey, where's Dad? She said, well, your dad and I got a phone call in the middle of the night. It was from the police. Your brother and a friend took my car last night and they drove all the way to Ohio. They bought alcohol. They started drinking. They had an accident. Dad went over to pick them both up and get them out of jail. As soon as Mom finished that story, in through the front door walks my brother and Dad, and they sit at the kitchen table. And my mom unloaded. She said, Lorne, what were you thinking about? What got into your mind last night to do something like that? And my dad said, Mother, don't say any more. Because if you had seen what's left of your car, you would just be so thankful that you still have a son. I was 13. That was the first time I'd ever seen my mom cry. And I said to myself, I don't want to ever bring that kind of pain on my parents. My brother got up, he went to his room. My dad said, Mother, don't worry. He'll grow out of it. No, he didn't. My brother struggled with alcohol for the rest of his life. Last year on April 22nd, as my brother was taking his last few breaths on this earth, I thought back to why in the world did I tell my classmate that my brother was the person that had influenced my life the most? And I realized that it was through his examples that he taught me that one of life's greatest gifts is also one of its greatest challenges. Because it's always up to us, and only us, to decide in any situation which example in life we're going to follow. That's why we all must choose wisely. Because the future is just a reflection of the choices we make today. Mr. Contest Toastmaster.